the Seahawks go ahead and are basically at home this week to go ahead and take on the LA Rams for a shot to go to the Super Bowl. And of course, success for this team won't come easy. Not for both sides. So let's go ahead and let's get started on the Seahawks. They went ahead and they put up a good season. 45 on offense, they averaged 45 points scored, which of course was good enough to go ahead and land them. And the not surprising, but surely accurate second seed. Kyretcher with a good season, 5,223 passing yards, 61 touchdowns against 14 interceptions. And on the ground, well, we don't have to really talk about it, but at least give this team pretty much the respect that it deserves. I mean, Kyretcher doesn't really run it that much, so what do you really expect? So, let's just think about it. What do you really expect? But we're getting a bit off topic though. Some other guys you gotta go ahead and mention. Math Curse going ahead and pretty much trying to break his Super Bowl curse and trying to claim his first Super Bowl. And he had a good season. 62 catches, 1,684 yards, and 31 touchdowns. As for basically his partner in crime, Eddie Hova, another good season for him as well. 71 catches, 1,401 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Both adding up to some very solid seasons. Now, as for the rest of the team, they also went ahead and they also have some good plays of their own. Fixed time, 26 catches, 554 yards, and 5 touchdowns, playing the first 4 weeks of the regular season with the Rams. While another Pro Bowler, a surprising one, Super MVP, had a good season himself. 22 catches for 512 yards and 11 touchdowns in only 4 games. And after that, this team has some somewhat decency, as they have delinquencies with 24 catches, 380 yards, 4 touchdowns. Ozzy has 12 catches for 370 yards and 5 touchdowns, but they won't be seeing him in the championship game as he now has been suspended by the league permanently for exploiting. And then after that, there are a few other guys who I mentioned. Cat guard Cap, whenever he is available, he had a 7-catch, 112-yard day for the Seahawks. Jamari Too Shifty only made 1 catch this season, but it was for a pretty decent amount of yardage. With 100 yards, and of course 1 touchdown. If Trippy Elves does play, he can also bring some Smith too. 6 catches for 77 yards, didn't score a touchdown, but overall showing being impressive this season. And then after that, this team doesn't really have much, except NMD, except Ottman, a few other guys we could mention. And of course, even Kyretcher is getting on a few catches. Now, let's also not to mention that for the playoffs, they went ahead and also acquired mid-season acquisition Kodak YRN, and basically have put up a very good performance in this playoff run. In the wild card, shutting out the Cowboys 52-8, and then completely obliterating the Lions 30-0. So while defense has been good these first two games, they're gonna be taking on a Rams team that basically has fared pretty well of its own, as we had seen, as the Lord Pred going ahead and having a good season. 3,692 yards, 45 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. Typical Pred season, but people love to see him dominate. And of course, the rest of that offense does have the rushing game does have its own strengths as well. Pratt is a man that isn't afraid to run it, and he'll take it if he has to. 33 carries, 243 yards, 1 touchdown. Typical for a good QB, but very solid. And of course, you can also mention that if Pratt doesn't play, they also have no carbs. 14 catches, who had 14 carries, 102 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Basically from the QB position, and while playing QB, he also had a good season himself. 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 4 games. And of course, this team also had its own slew of trick plays. Roney with a touchdown himself. And of course, and even Flight Fanboy going ahead and QBing a day, and he went off pretty good as well. But now that you wonder those questions, you're gonna be wondering now, well, how is this going to work? And what did the Seahawks have, just in case if they don't have a starting time? Well, for the Seahawks, they have a slightly better chance than probably the Rams, as each of these QBs, each of their backup QBs that they have, just so happens to have some QB experience. After QB, as he QB'd for the ACFL Kentucky Wildcats, we could see Amon Manning go ahead and show up. Daz, if he wants to. We can even see Eddie, and of course, Def ATL. But we could not see him. We don't know. But either way, it's a game of all or nothingness. And these both teams have to be prepared. But back to the Rams, though. The Rams receiving core was very decent of their own. At 12, 59 catches, 1,281 yards, 16 touchdowns. Nice season for him. We also had iFlight Fanboy, 21 catches for 415 yards and 4 touchdowns. And of course, Snow Limit Osmond, 19 catches, 341 yards, 3 touchdowns. Carrs with a good game, despite only playing in 3 games at wide receiver, 19 catches, 302 yards, and 5 touchdowns. We can go on and on. Heck, I'm going to even say, even Cedar Bob had a good game, had a good regular season. 9 catches for 109 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tom the Noob, 10 catches, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns. And of course, lockups whenever he's available, and a Noob Rector whenever he's got a chance. And even Park Sean went ahead and he came back for a late season surge. And heck, even the Lord Pred can go ahead and catch out of the backfield himself. But either way, both of these defenses will have to be unlocked. As we go ahead and look at them, we can go and explain it. For the Seahawks, they have one of the better one of the better pass defenses. When you have Kai Retcho time for the league leading interceptions with 11, and Math going ahead and having a spectacular year himself with 6 interceptions, it's going to cause havoc. In addition to those 17 picks, Diligencies with 2 interceptions, Eddie with 2 interceptions. Even Kankar Cup and Constead even had a pick of their own. So you'll see, they're going to go ahead and pretty much bring a show. Whether they like it or not. But for the Rams, however, they have pretty much almost as equal, but pretty good passy as well. Cedar Bob, four picks, 1 pick 6. Edzo 12, 7 interceptions. Carr with 4 picks. Fixon with 2. Like, Fixon's actually on the Seahawks. That's another part to worry about. Bless with 2 picks. And honestly, we can talk about other dudes, but honestly, you don't have pretty much the time to. And of course, when you look at when you go see the rest of their defense, though, this is what's going to go ahead and what's going to come everything down to the wire in. The Rams' defense wasn't one of those defenses to go ahead and allow much sacks. Park Sean may have had 3, and Cars may have had 3 himself, with Cedar Bob with 2. But that isn't enough to go ahead and generate enough pressure as much as the Seahawks have, because their pass protection can see Elds blocking and then rolling it out. And we could see HP Lasers at 9,000 have a good game as well. He only allowed 4 sacks this season, but he basically had pretty much gotten better as the season went on anyway. Meanwhile, as for the Seahawks, their defensive line is no joke. When you have Elds in there, he basically went ahead and he led the league pretty much as the sack crown leader. Well, not really, but he did have a good season himself. 14 sacks, 220 yards. Tipsy Caleb and HP Laserjet both with 4 sacks of their own. Despite that, yes, the list is thin. But overall, this is a chance of these two teams battling it out and seeing a win in the playoff. Now, another good to me about their defense is that the Rams, basically on offense, scored an average of 39.8 points per game. On defense, allowed 32.8 points per game. So we could be seeing two good teams battling it out for a chance to win it all. So who do you think? Who do you guys have? Do you guys go ahead and you guys have pretty much the superstarness of the Seahawks or the surprise but tough clutchness of the Rams, who entered this championship round basically with wins over the Washington football team and upsetting the 10-0 Atlanta Falcons. Either way, let me know what the predictions in the comics section. We'll go ahead and see you all next time in the next preview.